term Tuskegee Airmen. I was in pilot training. We were all sitting, we were new, just got to Williams Air Force Base. We're sitting around the table. The instructor asked each new student, why are you here? How did you get here? And I told the story about my dad taking me for a ride in a T-33, and the guy says, what? Your dad took you up in a T-33? I said, yeah, he was the commander of the ROTC detachment there at Tennessee State. And he says, your dad was a Tuskegee Airman? And I said, well, he went to Tuskegee and he was an airman. Yeah, I guess so. It's the first time I heard the term. I went to pilot training with a lot of guys from the Air Force Academy. They knew almost everything about the Tuskegee Airmen. I didn't know very much at all. Yeah. Even though I knew a lot of the pilots, because any time anyone would come to town, come over to the house for dinner. So these guys, these academy graduates are asking me all these questions about the Tuskegee Airmen. I'm taking notes so I can call my dad at night to get the answers. I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. Now, I know a great deal about the Tuskegee Airmen, a pilot. My dad is also the one who told me that if I wanted to make it rank in the Air Force, I was going to have to get out of the cockpit. If I wanted to stay in the cockpit, it'd be wise to get out of the Air Force. I had an opportunity that he did not have. I always wanted to be an airline pilot. It's so much safer than going to war. I never got shot at flying with Eastern Airlines and United Airlines. Pretty safe. Yeah. But I had an opportunity that my dad didn't have. My dad tried to get on with the airlines in the late 50s and the early 60s and was always refused, saying that they couldn't get anybody to fly with a Negro or colored pilot, which is not true at all. But there's a pilot, Captain Green, sued the industry and got on with Continental Airlines in the mid-60s, and they opened the door. So I had an opportunity. I knew that if I stayed in the military, I was going to go back to Vietnam, and quite possibly in a helicopter, which is a really dangerous job in war. I applied for every airline I could find an address for, and I got called by Eastern Airlines first. And I did the interview and was just fortunate. In January of 1971, I became one of the first black pilots with the airline industry.
What was that feeling like?
That was wonderful. I really liked being in that uniform. There was a lot of people I flew with who doubted that I had any flight experience at all. They thought that Eastern Airlines was forced by EOC, just to fill a quota, just take people off the street and put them in the cockpit. But that was certainly not the case. I had 1,500 hours of multi-engine jet and 5 years experience flying before I became a second officer on the 727 with Eastern Airlines. But at Eastern Airlines, I met my bride, who was a flight attendant, and been married almost 45 years now.
That's amazing, man.
A pilot in the Air Force. Yeah. I was a co-pilot for many years, and then I upgraded to be aircraft commander. Aircraft commander, AC. I was the AC on a KC, which is the first pilot. I'm responsible for the co-pilot, the navigator, and the boom operator who does the actual transfer of the fuel. Yeah. And I make all the decisions that have to be made. But I relished that. When I became aircraft commander, I mean, ROTC, initial pilot training, everything is being trained to hone you to be a commander, to take charge, to be the one who is responsible. Yeah. And when I finally got to be aircraft commander, that was the prize that I had my eyes on all those years in the military.
Right.
And when I left the military and went to the airlines, you go through the same thing. I started off as a second officer, was this flight engineer who maintains the ship's system on a 727.
Right.
Then I became a co-pilot, and then finally the captain,
Yeah.
who was responsible for the airplane and all those passengers.
Right. Right.
I flew the 747, two different models, a 3-man crew and a 2-man crew, the Dash 200 747 and the 747-400. Engineering masterpiece.
Yeah.
God, what a dream. Carried 300 passengers who are depending on you to get them from Chicago to Hong Kong without any instance, no problem. I was in a grocery store one time, and the manager knew me. I'm standing in line, and he comes to me and asks me, where are you flying, Howard? You know, what are you doing? And I told him about where I was flying and going on. The lady behind me says, oh my goodness, you're an airline pilot? That must be really exciting. I said, lady, I work really hard to keep it as dull and quiet as I possibly can. I don't want any excitement at all. And I worked really hard. I want you to get on that airplane and maybe go to sleep.
Right. So how long were you at United Airlines?
I started in December of 1989, and my last flight was December of 2003.
Oh, wow.
At age 60, then, government mandated age discrimination forced me to retire. Now they've changed the age to age 65, which didn't do me any good. They changed that after I had retired. But my dad got a ride in an F-18 with the Blue Angels at age 78. And we think that he is the oldest person to go up in an F-18. The actual pilot, Scott End, when he got back on the ground, came to me and said, your dad's absolutely amazing. He said he flew the airplane for about 45 minutes.
That's amazing.
He did all kinds of acrobatic F-18, and my dad said it was just the easiest thing to fly, especially compared to a P-40.
Right.
But the pilot said that my dad flew a loop where you start down and you come up over and go all the way across and start down the other end. The pilot said when we topped over and you could see the ground again coming up, my dad's sitting in the back seat flying. He said, I could hear your dad laughing as he came over the top to come down. Who knows? I mean, you just can't give a number and say, okay, because you're 60, you're too old to fly.
Right.
I think the oldest person to have a pilot's license, I heard, was 103. And it was a farmer out in Nebraska somewhere who had a private license and had an airplane and his own airstrip.
Yeah.
Age is just a number.
Right. So after they could pretty much force you to retire because of age discrimination, like what did you do then? What did you turn to?
Well, somebody asked me the next day, so how are you going to enjoy retirement? Then I had to ask, well, who's responsible for that? Michael Jackson says, the man in the mirror.
Right.
You look in the mirror every morning, you see who's responsible for your day,
Right.
your week, your month, your life.
Right.
Yeah, one of my dad's favorite sayings is life is to enjoy. And I've enjoyed life. I got kids, I got grandkids. I'm really enjoying life.
Absolutely.
Who that be?